One bat bomb. An American dentist stood in a cave in New Mexico in 1942, watching thousands of bats stream out into the night sky, and had an idea he couldn't shake: strap incendiary charges to their backs and let them burn Japan from the inside. The idea came from a dentist who pitched it directly to the government, and it received a full classified budget. During its first real test, the bats escaped early. They burned down an entire American airbase and torched a general's car to the frame. The project was canceled years later, not because it failed, but because the atomic bomb was ready sooner. A weapon built to burn Japan burned America first.
2. Unit 731's cholera weapon. In 1942, Japanese scientists released a cholera-laced weapon over a Chinese province, confident the disease would look natural and untraceable. The goal was to wipe out enemy forces with a disease untraceable to its source. Japan's own army swept through the same contaminated area days later. More than 1,700 Japanese soldiers died from their own bacteria, and infections inside their ranks exceeded 10,000. The most criminal weapon of the war killed its creators before it ever reached a real front line. 3. The sticky bomb. A British soldier in 1940 stared down at a grenade coated in adhesive and asked the obvious question: how do you throw something designed to stick to whatever it touches? The sticky bomb, as it was named, looked genius on paper. In practice, the adhesive didn't distinguish between tank steel and a British soldier's own uniform. The official solution the army adopted was for the soldier to walk up to the tank himself and press the live bomb onto it by hand. This wasn't a weapon anymore. It was a documented, officially approved suicide mission. 4. The Great Panjandrum. Generals and journalists lined a British beach in 1943, cameras ready, to watch a giant rocket-powered wheel prove it could blast straight through German coastal defenses. The Great Panjandrum, as the device was called, spun 180 degrees off course during that very demonstration. It chased the entire crowd down the beach while its own rockets fired in every direction. The test happened on an open public beach, and ordinary civilians witnessed the disaster firsthand. Footage of it still circulates today as one of the most embarrassing military films ever recorded. 5. The M16 rifle. American soldiers in Vietnam were handed a brand new rifle in the mid-1960s and told one simple thing: it never needs cleaning. The M16, as it was called, proved that claim false almost immediately, jamming constantly in humid jungle conditions. American soldiers were found dead with their rifles disassembled in their hands, killed while trying to clear a malfunction under enemy fire. The manufacturer knew about the defect before distribution and sold the weapon anyway. Soldiers were betrayed by their weapon before they ever reached the enemy. 6. War pigs. Ancient soldiers facing a wall of charging war elephants in 266 BC came up with a bizarre countermeasure: set live pigs on fire and release them screaming toward the enemy line. This tactic, later called war pigs, worked exactly as Macedonian forces intended against an elephant-led army. The terrified elephant reversed course immediately. The fleeing elephant then trampled its own army instead of the enemy's. This crude weapon was used with mixed results across several ancient battles. Some commanders learned from the failure. Others repeated it with identical results. 7. The Heinkel HE-177. German engineers in the late 1930s made a decision that would haunt every pilot who flew it: fuse two aircraft engines into a single unit to save weight on their new strategic bomber. The Heinkel HE-177 paid for that decision in the sky. Those combined engines caught fire spontaneously mid-flight with zero enemy involvement. German pilots nicknamed it the Flaming Lighter for its habit of self-igniting. The flaw was fully known to engineers and command, yet production continued for years because stopping it meant admitting failure directly to Hitler. 8. Mustard gas. A German chemist in 1915 unveiled a new weapon meant to end trench warfare for good, never imagining the wind would eventually turn it against his own country. Mustard gas, as it came to be known, doesn't recognize borders, and shifting wind repeatedly blew it back into German trenches, hitting their own troops in multiple documented battles. The gas's inventor, Fritz Haber, paid a personal price beyond the battlefield. His wife took her own life in protest months after its first use. He died years later in exile, hunted by the same government that once decorated him. 9. Exercise Tiger. American soldiers waded into the cold water off a British beach in April 1944, rehearsing an invasion with live ammunition. Unaware, German boats were already closing in undetected. Exercise Tiger, as the drill was named, descended into chaos when American artillery accidentally opened fire on its own forces. 749 American soldiers died that day, more than U.S. casualties on that same beach during the actual invasion. The incident stayed classified for decades.
10. The H.L. Hunley. A Confederate crew climbed into a cramped iron hull in 1863, fully aware that the vessel had already drowned one crew before them and sealed the hatch anyway. The H.L. Hunley, built to break the Union naval blockade, drowned that second crew the exact same way its first had died. A third crew volunteered anyway, fully aware of what happened to the first two. On its only combat mission, it sank an enemy warship, then sank itself with its entire crew for a reason still unknown today. 11. The Krumloff Curved Barrel Rifle. A German weapons designer in 1943 looked at a rifle with a curved barrel and asked, why not let soldiers shoot around corners without ever exposing their bodies? The Krumloff, as it was called, answered that question with a violent flaw. Its accuracy collapsed sharply as the curve angle increased. At 45 degrees, bullets fractured internally and partially ricocheted back toward the shooter. Despite this fatal flaw being fully known, thousands were manufactured and issued anyway, because the idea looked too clever on paper to cancel.